Hi everybody, welcome back to the EUDAIMONIA Connection podcast. And as we enter into autumn here in Australia, we get ready for the leaves to come down, and I'm dreading that word, winter, but it's coming. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to someone who is really interesting and has found inspiration through adversity, I guess. And we're going to be speaking to Aaron Young, who has got an interesting story. He went to Africa to do some work and ended up being a carer for elephants. He got arrested, and I'll let him tell you the rest. So let's welcome to the show, Aaron Young. Mr. Aaron, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Aussie.
Yeah, I was going to say, nice to hear an Aussie accent on the other end of this, not an American accent.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to you before we started, it is, I love the fact that I get to meet people that are inspirational, and I just base that decision on bio. And then once they come on air, I feel this energy and I know, yes, I've made the right decision. So this podcast is a bit unusual, but it's really helped a lot of people to see that you don't need to be the same mold to be inspired, right? So let's start with you maybe just giving us a short summary of that intro that I gave. What happened and how did you get there?
All right, let's do really quick, okay? So in 2004, I packed up and left Australia for good. I moved to the Middle East, fell in love in the Middle East. Woman was from Africa, went to Africa, fell in love with African wildlife, fell out of love with the woman. By that stage, I was in a country called Zimbabwe. I did what you could call the immigration shuffle for quite a while, which was paying a lot of bribes and a lot of money to keep myself protected from the story of the now ex. In all of that, I ended up jumping the border into Mozambique, going into Botswana, going into all these other countries and doing work with wildlife. At one point, I was in the hunting industry. I did anti-poaching. And the more and more I got closer to these animals, the more I realized that my natural affinity for animals as a child was a little bit stronger than just I liked them. They like me. Yeah. And I worked very well with them, especially elephants and lions. So
lions.
Exactly, I know. And so I ended up specializing in elephant behavior by accident with no education, just literally by affinity of your gift. And I did that. I ran teams of vets and we went and responded to emergency operations on elephants with snares on their legs, or relocating lions out of problem areas or conflict zones. And then I had a second child on the way and I had to leave wildlife and I went farming. Now, farming in Zimbabwe, to give you just in a nutshell, in 2003, the current president went on the rampage and literally started killing all the white farmers and told them all to leave. So I decided it was a clever idea for me to be a foreign white farmer and go farming in Zimbabwe. But not only did I do that, but I also am a crusader and arrogant. And so I took my mentality of zero corruption, zero theft into farming, and I did really well. I built a model farm. I was producing poultry on the same levels as Australians, but it was a political nightmare. Yeah, see, when you're protecting animals, they'll let you sort of fly under the radar and you can go do your thing. But when you start attacking...
you're sort of going against what they're saying, aren't you?
Yes, exactly. And standing tall and doing it, and then having my staff stand beside me, which means we became this center point of people going, whoa, what's going on over there? Anyway, long story short, I had to run from authorities. Eventually they caught me. And I did my first prison stint in December of 2018. I bribed my way out of prison and I went to court and I fought them because there's my arrogance in the crusader. I went, I'm going to fight you. So I fought them for a year. I bribed all and sundry, from public prosecutors to lawyers to judges to ministers. They set me up and I went back into prison again in August of 2019.
What was that like? Because on your bio, it sort of says it was...
the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, how did that happen for you?
Because what happens with human beings, and I'm going to say this very carefully here, not Aaron, every single human being on the face of the planet is built for challenge. We are creatures that evolved to where we are now because we are creative, solution-based animals. That's right, because we're animals. And so put in those situations, you either roll over and you die, or you stand up and go, how the hell do I deal with this? And there's not a human that's going to go into jail and give up.
Yeah.
We don't give up. You don't
And you know what? Like
that, do you?
I work on the same principle, and I love hearing other people say that. So it doesn't mean I'm crazy, but it really isn't complicated, isn't it? You either
Simple,
you either
man.
listen to the story, I'm going to die, or you adapt.
Yeah,
And
we
at the
adapt.
end of the day, for you, right? Because it was, I guess, high adrenaline. You adapt, right?
Oh, big time. Have to.
You're not going to sit there and just.
No. When have you ever heard the story of the guy who went to a Libyan prison, or got blocked up by captors for 30 years and gave up?
I'm sure some people do. I'm sure some people, small people do, I think.
Most of them get sick and may die.
Yeah.
So you'll get sickness and die in captivity because what happens is their mind turns against them and they give up that way. But, we're built to overcome. That's what we're here. Okay. And without challenge in our lives, we stagnate.
So you found inspiration, or you were inspired through that, and you changed. So we'll leave it at that, so we can then we'll get to know you more through the questions.
Cool.
So the first question that everyone gets, so this is the only question that isn't computer generated, is how do you define fulfillment? Like, how do you know when Aaron's fulfilled?
When I'm not thinking.
Okay.
When the brain and the mind is completely switched off.
So when you're in that zone.
Yeah, it's that play, and the best way for me to describe is when I'm with my kids.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no thought. It's all natural. When I'm with an elephant, I don't think. When I'm in the bush, barefoot, I don't think. Yeah. My body is now plugged into the earth around me, connected to the ground at my feet. I'm smelling, I'm seeing, all my senses. And, heart, mind, body, and soul is a cliche, but it's true. When they're in balance, the four of them, the mind shuts up and everything else kicks in and goes, hey, I'm part of the world around me.
So you're in the moment. So can I quickly ask, because I think that would be interesting for everyone listening. So when you're dealing with lions, you said lions, and you're dealing with elephants, which are wild animals, and you're not thinking, do you think that you know what to do because in that not thinking space?
Yeah, 100%, because your mind is full of fear, right? Your ego will tell you to stay safe, stay safe, stay safe. What is it going to do? What is it going to do next? Whereas when you shut the mind down, there is an innate connection, whether it's energetic or whatever you want to use, what scientific term, with you and the animal. You see them flinch. You see the body language, just like people from early childhood trauma see it in people. The empath. I'm an empath. Yeah, that's a trauma response because you're hypervigilant on body language. It's the same thing with an animal in that high adrenaline situation. You basically plug in and it works naturally.
Yeah, again, thank you, because that's, I think, something that people don't understand. The reality is that when you surrender and you're in your soul in a way, or in your truth, and you're being in the moment, everything that you need is there. Just like when you were saying before, I just think that we're all born to deal with whatever crisis or trauma we need to deal with, right? So really, in reality, everyone has got the capacity to deal with, when people go, oh my God, this is the biggest thing that's happened to me. In reality, I think dying is going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, and you won't know about it.
You won't know about it.
You'll get that last intake of breath. The DMT will flood through your body, as we know science tells us now, and then you will go wherever it is you believe you'll go. I think that's your business.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start this. So I'm telling you the truth, okay? None of these questions have been chosen by me. All right, let's go. All right. So, Aaron Young, you're born a woman. Tell us what life would be like for you.
Oh, no. Oh, I'd have been a slut. I mean, sorry to use that word, but I was...
So you'd be promiscuous. Well, do you think that's your energy? Is that what your meaning would be? Like, would you have adversities to anything, you think?
Yeah, the thing is, you've got the me now could answer that question and actually be very mature. And then I can go back, say, 8 years prior to my transcendence or whatever you want to call it, and actually be honest. And that is that I was codependent. So I was literally constantly seeking pleasure or attention or attachment from outside, fulfillment. So if you give a woman with an attractive, and I'm just being honest, I think I would have run around the world using that as a tool. You see that's what I believe.
So you see that is that your perception of what you think women do?
Oh no, not at all. I don't think women do that. I'm talking about Aaron Young. No.
Yeah.
I think yes, there are.
Does Aaron Young the man do that?
Not now, but used to. Aaron Young, the man, went through years, especially when there were a lot of drugs involved, where yes, I definitely did it because I was completely damaged. But did I do it outside of those times? No, because I grew up with a mother who was the epitome of that. Okay. And so I was incredibly aware of my potential and my charisma to be very damaging. And so, yes, there were periods where I was drinking too much, partying, and of course I was full-blown narcissist and all those other horrible words. But then coming back down to earth, the periods where I did the work on myself, I was very aware of the manipulation, the lies. Very much so. I was trained by the ultimate in what you're asking me. So I guess I'm also answering that question because I'm answering them as my mother.
Yeah.
Because that's who would have trained me.
Yeah. I'm just going to, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to give you a part B, okay? So
Yeah.
because of the way you are, the way that you're, when you were going against the governments in South Africa and all that, what do you think would be some of your hurdles or obstacles if you're a woman and you had to go through the same thing?
Shit, it wouldn't have happened.
I want you to try and feel it.
Yeah,
so
I can. It makes me feel sick because literally...
So what do you think would have happened to you?
Let's go to the first point where there was a real serious... It depends on the country. In South Africa, I probably would have disappeared. Would have raped and been disappeared.
Gone?
Yeah, gone.
Yeah.
In Zimbabwe, a very different tribal culture. I think they would have literally forced me onto a plane and kicked me out because it was dangerous. And the Shona, the ruling tribe of Zimbabwe, are very compassionate people, and they would have been scared for me. They would have said, look, if you continue with this, you're going to disappear.
So do you think that you would have lost that part of you that would push?
No.
See, so the woman, so it's interesting to think sometimes when we step into a woman's shoes, because there's been different variations of this question, we sometimes answer it from the male perspective, not realizing that sometimes we've got to shut ourselves down. So do you think that you would have shut it down, or do you think that you would have found a way to make it work?
Would have found a way to make something work. Look, now what would have happened is I probably would have fallen back on a safer region of the world. So maybe Southeast Asia or the South Pacific. Okay. So that part of me that would want to connect and actually help and use that part of me would have still been there. I probably just would have stepped back. It would have been maybe more animal orientated on the marine side, or I wouldn't have stopped. No, I look at my daughter. No, I've got it. And I see that. So no, there's no way. It's in you,
Okay. So I swear these aren't questions that I pick because it sort of seems sometimes there's a higher percentage of really personal questions.
Yeah, that's all
right. So if we were to sort of give you a truth serum, what would be your freakiest part? What's the part of you that would be called or labelled a freak? And by that word, it doesn't mean bad, okay? Everyone's got their freak on. Yeah.
I don't take that as bad. I don't know. It depends on the perspective. Again, I think the worst part was the drug days. Was the drug days.
What came to your head first when I gave you that question?
Oh, just free things, like a lot of promiscuity.
It's sex.
No morals.
Sex is
no morals. No morals. Oh, look, this is all pre sort of 32. Yeah. We're talking 14 years ago, but it was very much a part of me that I don't actually connect with comfortably. So when you say freak, it doesn't conjure up this idea of when was I going against what I considered morally right. And in those days, selling stuff, and I was not me. And I consider that. But look, there's also times, when I was in the hunting industry, I consider that freak because, again, I did something because I believed it was a macho part, and it was, all the whites around me did it, and it was this thing to do. And then the more I got into it, the more it made me sick, watching a young lion shot, being part of a leopard being killed. So again, I know I'm using freak in a negative connotation.
No, I think you're answering it really well because you're showing how, I love the fact that you're being vulnerable because it shows we know who you are now, right? And so these stories, you're basing your freak on the past. Yeah. Do you think that how does that freaky part of you that is great, still exist now? Jeez,
I don't know.
Think about your passion and your energy.
Okay, so we will. So I stepped away from conservation completely, and I never went back to it. And then after, obviously, my experience with leaving, I never thought I would ever, and never wanted to really, because it was all really negative. So I've had some guys appear out of nowhere wanting me to help them with an incredible project covering the whole of Southern Africa. Now, you want to see me on fire. I will type at about 80 words a minute. I'm unraveling and dissecting and creating in a way that is like the me of 20 years ago, which is the same energy that was crazy and freaky. Exactly the same energy.
Yeah.
That's just now at 48.
That's what I like.
It's now focused. So now I'm actually focusing, because we've all got that energy. We can all be doing pills and doing crazy shit. Yeah. And then you can take that energy back. Now you're mature and go, I see you, creativity. I'm not going to go and chew pills and go and have a threesome. I'm going to put that energy into something. And so that's where it's animal.
Yeah. Man. You found the right place for the energy.
Bang. But being a dad and animals are my two greatest gifts and passion.
Yeah. The next question is a little bit intense. I'm sorry. It's so if one of your children needed a kidney, but you had to buy it off the black market, how would you live with your morals?
I would just do it.
Okay. Do you want to
Sadly,
explain?
yeah, whoa.
Like, do you think the
My
importance
highest,
of family?
one of my look, because of the way I grew up as a young child, there was no family, non-existent completely. In fact, the opposite. It was like that antipathy or whatever that word is, a family. It was a horrible thing, and it's still, that family still isn't great. So for me, the protection and my idea of protecting my children is the greatest thing ever. Now, the problem is that doesn't just mean my kids. So when you ask that question, it's like ripping me in two, because to get a kidney to protect my child, that means it's a kidney coming from another child. So if it was done under ethical grounds, wow, man, that's like...
Yeah. I get this feeling that you would do, you're very passionate, so you're very intense in a good way when you want something done that's fair or right? Like, say, for example, you need, in Australia you might need money, and you don't have the money, and so you find the means to make things work. Do you think that, would you call that no fear, or would you call that passion? What would you call that, a part of you?
I don't think we ever eradicate fear. We learn to respond to it instead of react to it. There's no such thing even in war. I mean, you carry a weapon, fear is a necessary part of us. It's also, if I'm honest, it's also triggered a little bit by my early childhood. There's also this intensity of survival here and this intensity of protection which wasn't offered to me. So it's a little bit sometimes over the top. It's, I will protect my kids at all costs. So, when they were born, I'm not a religious man, but I made a pact with God that if anything was to ever happen to them, I would go first. And that I would trade my life no matter the circumstance and no matter what manner. And I made that for each of my children.
Can I add? Right? Because, I'm breaking all the rules with you. So you mentioned before that you were younger and you had a narcissistic element, right? So how do you, now you've got this real caring, loving part of you. So how did you, I just want to, because I don't have children, do you think that just got switched on when you saw the baby?
Oh, yeah. Big
and
time.
You lost that old part of you?
It shifts big time. No, it still lingered for about probably 18 months. It still popped up because of the partner I had at the time, and it was still there, but it was diminished heavily. And what was attached to was whenever it reared its head, there was a lot of guilt and shame. And guilt and shame for me was an incredible teacher. Not a nice one. It's a horrible one, but it's an incredible teacher if you know how to use it. Yeah. So, for me, it's instantly changed. And because you know what? It's a sense of maturity.
I think you answered it. When I'm never going to know what it's like to be handed, because I've heard these stories from a lot of fathers, but everyone says the same thing. I don't know what it's like to see something that you created, and so they say the same thing as you. Fulfillment just opens, doesn't it?
There's a chemical reaction within us, and what happens, I believe, is I say maturity, but if we want to be honest about it, what happens is the selfishness goes, because that's what maturity is. Really, maturity is just a fancy word for growing up. But we've met 12-year-olds who are mature, and we've met 50-year-olds who are immature. It's that when your selfishness dissipates or starts to become understandable, so when you're being selfish, you're honest about when you're being selfish, then you're sort of able to say you're mature. Yeah. Because when you're being a prick and you're motivated by your own benefit. And when you've got children, all of a sudden it's like, I can go and go to the pub if you're a drinker, or I can go with my mates to go fishing on the weekend. And then you look at your children and you go, no, man, I'm not doing that.
And that's what this word means. This word has actually got a second meaning, and that is being of service to others. Yeah. So it really isn't describing what you're saying, right? So I want you now to, and I really want you to not think, I just want you to go there. So I want you to go to your teenage years and tell us the most awkward moment that you had as a teenager.
It's not that exciting.
Doesn't matter.
So there was there was a bar in Pennant Hills in Sydney called Patrick's as a kid that we used to frequent, and I won a competition to have a date with, I think she was the host of Perfect Match back then. Oh. So she was, I can't remember her name, but we could.
I went on Perfect Match. Did you? Yes. Yeah. So I know what you're talking about.
So I pitched up for this. I think I was 19, maybe. It's a long time ago. I pitched up and I went to open the door to this bar. It was like a lunch date. I turned around and I bolted.
Okay, so you did a run-up.
Yeah, I did a run-up.
Cool. So the reason why that doesn't matter how big or small you think the story is, I mean, there'd be people out there that would relate, because I just did a runner last week at a wedding. So I'm still doing Okay, so when you think about the world, what unethical experiment do you feel has the biggest negative impact on society?
Holy shit.
I,
We talked about this, but there's multiple. But we could go for the obvious one.
just pick up. Just go to
Like
the one that
social
first
media.
pops into your head.
Let's look at social media. The reality
Okay.
is that we are in an ongoing experiment with this thing. It is growing at a faster pace than our ability to understand it is. And I'm not speaking anything here. There's documentaries, there's experts out there showing us this.
Can you try and answer it from your, say, as a dad? Like, how are you going to protect your kids? Like, are you one of those dads that give your kids iPads?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
so how are you going to deal with that experiment on them?
Well, I can't tell you until it happens, because in my mindset, my instant reaction is to guard up and get really angry and say, no. But we know what happens when you do that.
I know.
Don't we? So what has to, it becomes a fluid situation, which is a case-by-case basis. So yes, in early years, completely almost non-existent unless it's educational. Very little TV, because that's how I grew up. And I know that the premise of some of that stuff is simple. Let the brain develop enough to be able to recognize what it's looking at before you poison it with external shit.
Yeah.
Later on, you can't choose. There's peer pressure, school, you've lost. But in that first 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you must be present.
Yeah.
You are their leader and their example.
Yeah.
And if you are not present with them, and if you let a screen or whatever, then what's going to happen is they're going to search for external influence their entire life. I'm not happy. Where's my phone?
Yeah.
I'm not happy. Where's my iPad?
I feel excited that you're a fighter, because I know that you've got our backs.
Oh yes, man, I am, and this is, you see my content. I rant and rave, not enough about it because people don't want to hear me.
Well, I would say to you, don't stop speaking, because when they don't want to hear you, I think eventually you get through, right? I went to a conference a few weeks ago, and at the conference, right, they said that for a child between 2, because that's when they first start getting iPads, to say 18, the time that they should be on social media a day is only 30 minutes, right? Which is not realistic. No. So I put a timer on my phone to see every time I hit 30 minutes, I get an alarm. And oh my God, my phone, I realized that 30 minutes. So it's really a mental thing, isn't it? That they've been conditioned. Yeah. And I get really shocked when I see parents at the park or somewhere.
By sitting in it.
And they're just looking at it.
And look, and the thing is, and this is one of my biggest things I get the most response to with parents, is children don't do as we tell them to. They do as we do. So you can give advice to your child and say, no. They're watching you all the time. Yeah. And if you do not understand that you're walking a pram along with a phone in your hand, doing the shopping with a phone in your hand, sitting on a lounge, exactly, because you know what children see in us? They're hypocrite. So when your kid starts acting out and everyone's going, oh, it's because of food, your kid is sick and tired of you telling it not to do something that you do every single day. Yeah. Right in front of it. And when it gets to teenage years and it's now battling you and going to war with you, that is, it's asserting, fuck you. You told me no, and I watched you do the same thing for the last 10 years of my life. Yeah. So you're going to get it both barrels now. And we don't. And the stupid part is that we don't seem to see it. Is that we're
obsessed. We're addicted as well. But the thing is that with kids, the secret really isn't that complicated. No. And that is, you've got to find a way to make them realise that they're deciding, but you've sort of helped them to make that decision by getting them to realise. I think telling them the truth is important at a young age, because I see a lot of kids that are 15, 16 that are definitely addicted.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So if all of us, all the listeners and myself went into your home and we started snooping around, what would we find?
Nothing.
What would we find that you've hidden? Is there anything?
You'd find, I live such a simplistic life. Now, years ago, I've always been like this. I've always been very simple. We see a lot of camping equipment, fishing stuff, but
you're nice and neat and you're not organised.
What you'd see is photos of my kids.
Right, okay. So there's nothing to find in your little snooping drawers.
No, at 48, you know what I mean? Like,
that's
if you got
right.
me, and even I'm kind of boring. Like, when it comes to that sort of stuff, you've seen how honest I am. I got nothing to hide.
Yeah, so everything's out in the open.
There's no drugs, there's no prescription pills.
There's no hidden letters or hidden photos or hidden...
because when I got booted out of Zimbabwe, it was with a gun at my back.
Okay.
So I left with literally these pictures that my ex sent me in a suitcase left me at the airport, and that was it, and clothes on my back.
Yeah, and that's. Do you find that that's actually a nice way to live
man.
and be fulfilled by that, just by simplicity?
Here's an example. This is beautiful. So my partner and I now, we've very got the same ethos. We like simple. We'd rather spend our money on experience, on life, taking the kids for food to the park, ice cream, just stuff that doing, not collecting. Now, just the other day, her parents are coming from the UK. We bought a dining table and an apple. Now, do you know how grateful we were for such very small things because of that?
Yeah.
It was this beautiful, beautiful is an understatement. It was this, we don't cherish shit anymore because we've always got something. The phone's crap, let's get a new one.
We're new all the time.
New pair of sunnies, this instant fulfillment. Now, when you live in this situation, and I was lucky in Africa, it blessed me to understand this, because when you're living in a mud hut, you really start to appreciate what is real in life. And you watch a little kid who's got one pair of shorts and no other clothes with the old stick and a ball, and you watch the joy on this boy's face and the connection with him and his family and his bigger family, the tribe, which is the entire, man, you sit there, tears. I walk away.
You said something then that's really, really important. That is, we don't sit there and appreciate it, do we?
No, we
Especially kids now.
We don't cherish anything. We don't stop for long enough. It's always, it's the thing that we hold, and that's the only sense we use with it. And then basically we put it down. You look at kids' bedrooms.
That's why I hate Christmas morning. I spend hours and days being so creative, and then it's over and no one, what's next, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Okay, so you're off to your family reunion. Tell us what happens.
There's no one there.
So it's just you?
No, well, my mother, I've spoken to her once in about 18 years.
Okay.
And when we do talk, when we have an email go back and forth, it's extremely aggressive. I try and it just doesn't work.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm at peace with it. My mum is who she is, and I've tried, and every year I make an effort and I'll send an email, and what I get back is just like, all right, we'll just wait for another year. My half-sister, I try with her, but since we were born, there's something about the two of us that just will not gel. So sadly, she's just moved back from Barcelona and is 30 minutes away. I don't know how that happened.
Okay. And so you don't see her that often, even though
I saw her twice, and then the cat, she jumped out the bag, and all of a sudden we won't talk again. And I try to fix it, but that doesn't work. I got a half brother, and he lives literally 40 minutes from me. Now, him and I talk regularly, but would I say we're close? And sadly, because of the upbringing we had, I've met my half brother. I mean, before I got back here, I'd met him 3 times in his entire life.
So take that situation, and knowing that you're a positive person, for those people that have got similar experiences that find that traumatic, how did you come, you said you're fine with it, but, most of us want intuitively to have a family, right? I know you've got one now. Yeah. How did you deal with that yourself so you could find this place of being happy? Would that be a reason why you partied in the early years, you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was chasing external. I was carrying a lot of pain. I was acceptance. Okay. Everyone thinks that we're in this life to be loved, and it's not. We're here to be understood. That is what humans crave more than anything. And I wanted my mother to understand me and say I am proud of, and not that I did a lot of stuff younger years to be, but there was just never that support. So basically what I did was I went on the massive adrenaline rush. I wanted everything to be to the highest height could be, so that I didn't have to feel the lowest lows. But inevitably, you know what happens in life. When you feel the highest highs, you feel the lowest lows, and it took me quite a long time to work that out.
Do you think that again, because I went through a trauma and I felt that was really the big change for me, and I'm guessing for you maybe going to prison and all that sort of stuff. So do you think that that's how you found this real, like all of those experiences have really given you this wonderful backdrop to have this life? Oh
yeah, 100%. I look at my life as a blessing now.
Yeah.
I was abducted at the age of 5. And so when I talk to people in a crowded room about that, they sit there and they really cringe up and they get all like it's going to be uncomfortable. And then I sit there smiling and saying, it set me on the path to actually look at my mother differently too. Because if that hadn't happened to me, I might have copied everything my mother did. Yeah. And I could be now the waking image of her. And if that's not what I want to be, because I'm connected, I live a life of service, I'm an incredible parent.
And you survived, right? That's the thing. I think it's, when people cringe, they've gone back to that moment. But in reality, you're telling them through the eyes of someone that's developed and grown, but they go back to what they would be. I guess what's happening when we tell stories is people go into that scenario and they're the character.
And then the instantaneous reaction for us in this modern society is to become a victim.
Yeah,
Is to
to
go,
panic.
oh, poor you,
Yeah, I hate that.
which means poor me. And the problem with that is this idea that we think sympathy is a good thing. Sympathy is one of the most dangerous things you can ever give a person. Empathy, good. Sympathy,
and it's also, do you think it's also got to do with the fact that they're not really listening?
Yeah, I think that's
they would see you and go, this guy's really grown from that. But instead they go into that thing. All right, now the next section is really quick answers, okay? Cool. What do you think in your past, your youth, was you thought something was really cool, but when you look back now, you realise it was really daggy?
I had a pair of jeans that were half denim, half white, and they had graffiti on the white part.
Oh my God, you're a rapper!
And not only yes, I was, and not only that, but I used to roll the bottoms up.
Yeah, please tell me that you didn't do dancing on cardboard.
No, I didn't do that, but I wouldn't fire off it.
If magic was real, what spell would you try and learn first?
How to inspire people, to uplift people. I want to find that way to basically get people to take action. Motivation spell. I would want a motivation spell.
What goal do you think humanity is not focused enough on? It's the same sort of answer, isn't it?
It's awareness. It's looking at ourselves.
Yeah. What problem are you currently grappling with in your life?
The separation of me with my two children still stuck back in Africa.
Okay. If you were to play a game for hours, what game would you play? What's something that you could do for hours without even?
I can play computer games. Funnily enough, I can go back to that and sit on a Nintendo Switch, or I can do that.
Yep. Where do you think it has been the hardest you've ever worked?
The Middle East. No, the Middle East for sure, man. I used to do 50 degree heat, and with 380 Indians in the middle of the desert building stadiums and military bases. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah. This could be from youth or now or middle, whatever, but what artist or band do you always go to?
De La Soul.
Oh my God, I'm surprised you said that. I love them too.
Yeah.
So they're the one there you go to?
Oh, for sure, man. There's that, Blackalicious, any of that old early hip-hop from the 90s. The non-violent before hip-hop became what it is now.
Yeah. I mean, this question is so you. If animals could talk, so say elephants, what would they tell you? What do you think those animals were telling you when you were with them?
That makes me a bit sick, really. Because you know what they're telling me?
But they love you and they come to you. So there's obviously a good thing, but also they're probably telling you a secret about what's going on.
No, they know that their days are numbered.
Yeah.
They know. That's why.
And they feel it, don't they?
Oh, hell yes, they do. You know, they've still got that primal ability to communicate over huge distances with each other without words. They know what's going on. They know their land is being stolen. They know that where they went once to get food, there is no food. Or there's cattle now, and they either kill cattle because it's food, and they get shot, and they lose their babies every year, and then they go back to another place that was there for eons, where, say, elephants, where the cemetery was, where they always went to die, and the bones are no longer there. The water sources are drying up. You know, like, they know.
Yeah.
You know? And this is not just the smarter ones, like we might say elephant ones.
No, it's intuitive.
This is everything. This is all of them. Birds.
It's funny. I always find it funny how we underplay, like, you know, like the killing of animals to eat or the poaching of animals because they want to for sport. I just still find that really a weird thing that people don't even think of. So the last one in this section is, so again, try and pick one age, okay? So if you look at your timeline, when do you consider that you were the most coolest?
Probably now.
Cool daddy.
Because I'm at peace with who I am, and I think that is, for me, again, this is a bit of a cliche. I believe
it's cool.
The ultimate cool is when you are comfortable as who you are. Yeah.
Okay, so the last question, and... See, I love this game. I should make this into a card game. Yeah. If you woke up with a superpower, what would it be, and tell us what you'd do with it?
Oh, wow. That's a good question.
Do you want to fly, or do you want to see through walls, or do you want to hear conversations? Do you want to...
if I was to answer this question from 20 years ago, I'd always be invisible.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think is that your? I know I can really picture your answer. Is that so? Think about who do you like out of the superheroes now?
I don't know any of them.
Come on, you know Batman, Superman.
Oh, yeah, I know Batman, Superman. Look, for me, it's always going to come back again. The maturity thing kicks in. Yeah. It's going to be a way I can be of service. So it really is a case. I'd love to be a politician. the real politician, the real leader. So you give me the superpower of being able to cut through all the bureaucratic bullshit so that I can be a leader for men. So they can look and go, you know what? I don't have to be embarrassed anymore. That to me is I want that superpower. I
watched the Batman yesterday, and I think you should go see it because that's exactly
there you go.
That's exactly Superman. Batman becomes this guy that wants to do exactly what you just said, and I've never really seen him that way.
No, I wouldn't.
It's a very dark movie, but it was all about the injustice of politics. I wasn't expecting that. So I'm going to ask you one more question. So what would be as a farewell? So what do you want your legacy to be?
That I was a good man. And I mean good. Well, that's a cliche. I mean a good man. Not, he was a good man. I really want people to be able to analyse my journey and say he was honest, sincere, vulnerable, but he took action when it was needed to be a good man. Because being a good man isn't walking around, giving money out or just patting puppy dogs and all this stuff. I mean really.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was listening to Shane Warne just died, right, and I'm listening to the ABC this morning, and even though he had all these controversial things, and we knew he liked to party, we knew he liked women, but every single person, old, young, whatever, everyone said the same thing, that he's a good man. Like he was generous. He would give, if he spoke. So it's interesting because I was listening, and then now you've answered the same way. You'll never know if you're a good man, right? You just know that you're good and you're just being authentic. And then people can connect with that. And then the legacy part of it is what they say.
Exactly. And you know what? Exactly, when you're gone. So you'll never know. But you know how you can measure it? The best measure I've found is how children react to you.
Yes.
If you want an idea of who you truly are, not your kids, because you can be an upset bastard and they'll love you anyway. If you see yourself around other kids, it's like the old adage of a dog. If the dog barks at you and he doesn't like it, then maybe have a look at yourself. I think that's for me been the best measure.
Yeah. And I think what you said at the beginning of the show is also the key, and that is you don't think when you're in fulfillment, right? So you don't have, I'm guessing, and I know 100% it's right, you don't have expectations that when you do something that you want something back. And that's because you're not thinking.
That is.
Right? You're authentically there. Well, most people, and I do have to say, I do see it in therapy, which is a disadvantage because they're coming in for help. But most people will say, I'm caring, I love people. But then in the next breath they say, but that don't do nothing for me. And so that's where...
There you go. And that is what we live in a world that is full of. It's I give and give and give, but I don't receive back. That's not giving.
No, we have to
say that's business. That's business.
It's business.
Real charity is when you give without expectation. And, you've just hit the number one key to happiness I teach people is to live without expectation.
Yeah.
Because when you stop demanding and needing back from other people, you suddenly find a sense of peace within you to go, I just gave, no one saw it, and no one will ever know.
Yeah.
And that's how you become a good man. You know what you said before? No one will ever know. I'll know if I'm a good man.
Yeah. And if I can add one small thing to that statement, because it's important, because this is the big mistake I feel people make, is when you find that you're happy 100%, there's no need to receive.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Right. Sure. So if you're expecting something, I would say to yourself, why do I want that? How do I get that myself? And that's how they find themselves finding that space. But most people, unfortunately, and I hate saying this out loud, but most people are lazy.
And you know what? I'm going to say this. But that behaviour we've got is the perfect example of a narcissist.
Yeah.
Because I love this word that people, for you want to watch social media about narcissist, and I'm an empath.
Everyone's a narcissist now.
Yeah, everyone's a narcissist. We're all narcissists.
All of us.
When you give to receive something back, that is narcissist. The perfect example of narcissistic behavior.
Yeah.
So stop doing it.
I need to ask you another question now, so we end on a happy thing. So really quick, all right? Yeah. So if they were doing a biopic of your life, who would play you? Who would be the actor that would play you?
Oh, what's the guy? What's the guy from the Bourne movies?
Oh, Jason Bourne.
What's his name?
What's his name?
I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know you're talking about. So Ben Affleck's friend.
Matt Damon.
Yes. So you consider yourself to look like Matt Damon a bit?
No, I don't think so. Or DiCaprio. Oh
my God! Now we go to the top. I love it.
Oh yes, yeah.
So he'll be paid $50 million to play you more.
Yeah, they'd have to be.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you so much. That was fun. And again, I want you to really know that I did not choose any of those questions.
No, I believe you.
So the universe always picks the right thing for the right person. So thank you. And I'm going to put all your information down below so people can read. Definitely want them to read your bio. And thank you for inspiring us, and do keep doing your good work.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, because this wasn't what I expected, which is what I want.
Yeah. All right. See you, buddy.
Cheers.
You've been watching the EUDAIMONIA Connection podcast. This podcast is out every Wednesday in the series. So we've got 10 episodes per season. We're up to season 3. So make sure you go back and listen to some of the interesting back catalogue. We've spoken to a lot of amazing people that you would not expect would inspire us, just like we just had with Aaron. So have a great week, everyone, and keep looking for fulfillment. Bye.